The king's had enough. He has finally decided to distance himself from these ongoing claims from quarters, especially of the mainstream media, actually. I would argue pro-Prince Harry and Meghan Markle quarters of the mainstream media.
A photo album selection of their wedding day 8 years ago. It's their 8th wedding anniversary today, posted by Meghan on Instagram. I thought it was extraordinary.
You know, one of the things that I always found very arrogant about Prince Harry, and you might say, well, there's many actually.
Meghan, obviously, failure after failure, but Harry, who wants to give his life to charity, he's arrogant and he's lazy.
To somehow protect the king by forcing William and Harry to shake hands with one another. How he will do that, I don't know.
Reports have claimed that Prince William has reached a point where he no longer wants his brother's name brought up around him at all. Now, a palace insider is suggesting that someone inside the royal household believes he can somehow bring the brothers back together. But after Meghan's latest move this week, combined with what Harry has reportedly been doing quietly behind the scenes, many royal watchers believe any remaining path toward reconciliation may be disappearing faster than ever. William didn't simply grow distant from Harry. According to reports and royal commentators, he built a firm boundary, and with every new controversy, interview, documentary or headline, that boundary appears to become even stronger. Sources connected to royal circles claim William has made his feelings known within Kensington Palace. He reportedly does not want discussions about Harry becoming part of his daily routine, whether during meetings, official briefings, or casual conversations around the palace corridors. To many observers, that decision signals something much deeper than a temporary disagreement. The future king is said to have shut that chapter of his life as much as possible.
That Charles III is trying to secretly engineer some type of return for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to this country. That King Charles is in some way working in cahoots with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to make this couple who are so hated by the public in some way more politically palatable.
But would you go as far as to say, from the point of view of William, that in regard to Harry, they are no longer brothers? Have they ceased to be brothers from William's point of view?
I think that's spot on. I really do
Wow.
think, and that's why William was so troubled. I heard when the row first happened, I heard he went up to Balmoral and basically grieved for his brother, a bit like after, when his mother died. He grieved for his brother because he felt he'd lost another incredibly close and important member of his family.
But one insider said Theo believes that Harry and William need to be forced to shake hands and allow Charles to repair his relationship with Harry. The source adds, I would be very surprised if Harry doesn't see Charles when he is in the UK. Theo would not be one of the many aides at the palace wishing to block a meeting. But while he may be outnumbered after the US visit, he is the most respected man in the building right now.
And supporters of William often argue that this isn't simply about resentment, frustration, or wounded pride. They believe it is about protecting the people closest to him and preserving stability for his immediate family. Just think about everything Catherine has experienced over the last several years. During an incredibly difficult period that included her cancer treatment, public discussions surrounding the royal family never seemed to slow down. Interviews, podcasts, television specials, media commentary, and endless online speculation continued generating headlines from across the Atlantic. Questions were raised, rumors circulated, and countless stories spread across social media platforms at a time when she was already dealing with significant personal challenges. From William's perspective,
there's a new royal aide in town, and his name is Theo Rycroft, and he's become this kind of great white hope for King Charles and any hopes of repairing his relationship with Prince Harry, and even possibly repairing the relationship between Prince William and Prince Harry. And the reason is because Theo is this incredibly nice man, and he's also incredibly talented as a diplomat. In fact, it was him that got Charles and Trump getting along so well during the US state visit last month. And then also when Prince William met Donald Trump Trump in Notre Dame last year. It was Theo behind the scenes greasing the wheels and making sure they all got on, despite their differences over issues like climate change. Anyway, so people think Theo is this absolute diplomatic genius, and everybody thinks he's marvellous and kind and nice. So the current rumour doing the rounds at the palace is that maybe Theo can smooth the way between William and Harry and get them to shake hands. He's not being over optimistic, let's face it, there may never be anything more than a handshake, but just to get them in a room together, vaguely being civilised with one another, for the sake of King Charles, who after all has got cancer and is going through a lot at the moment. He just did State Parliament opening. He's a very busy man. And Theo apparently sees it as his duty to help the king and help make the king's life less stressful. And of course, one major source of stress is Prince Harry. Obviously, the palace aides are very much saying, oh, of course, that would be overstepping his duties. He would never express such an opinion. Aides are always neutral. But this is the rumour that I'm hearing.
According to many commentators, he watched all of it unfold in real time. Every headline, every controversial claim, every viral discussion, every moment that fueled public debate about the royal family seemed to arrive during periods when Catherine was facing important responsibilities or personal struggles. Whether fair or unfair, many believe those experiences left a lasting impression on William and helped shape his current outlook. That is why many people who follow royal affairs say the answer to the reconciliation question may be much simpler than some imagine.
This huge photo album selection of their wedding day 8 years ago, it's their 8th wedding anniversary today, posted by Meghan on Instagram. I thought it was extraordinary. I mean, there's this sort of copious selection of, very compelling photographs of that wedding, never seen before. Meghan and Harry suction kissing, but we got to see it. Lots of them dancing. One tiny picture of the back of the king's head, because of course the king walked Meghan down the aisle in the absence of her own father, or indeed the absence of her entire family except for her mother, because she's estranged from them. Little picture of the king, and no pictures of any other members of the British royal family. Every single one of them censored out by this woman.
She wanted to show off, Mummy is so lovely. And this little kid was sitting down with something wrong with her foot, but I couldn't judge what it was. And she had to watch her mother. As we know, she is not allowed to turn around so that we see her. So she was just there with her mother sort of standing there, look at me, I'm just so wonderful. And you want to be sick.
William has a wife and 3 children to think about. He has future responsibilities as king. And according to those close to royal circles, he may not be interested in exposing his family to additional uncertainty or renewed public drama if it can be avoided. Yet despite all of that, someone reportedly stepped into the picture believing there was still a way to bridge the divide. And that is where this story takes another fascinating turn. The man at the centre of the discussion is Theo Rycroft, a former diplomat who is married to the sister of Samantha Cameron. He recently became Deputy Private Secretary to the King and was mentioned in a widely discussed Daily Mail article by Charlotte Griffiths. According to that report, Theo allegedly viewed repairing relations between William and Harry as one of his major priorities. Then came the quote that immediately triggered debate across social media and royal forums everywhere. An unnamed source reportedly claimed that
she would still be the girl from Suits if it weren't for Harry and his family. And yeah, just
let's have a look. I mean, you're right. That's what struck me. I mean, the royal family, the king and the then Queen, Prince Philip, the then Prince Charles, now King, they went out of their way to make her feel welcome. You saw the King walking, or Prince Charles as he was then, walking Meghan down the aisle. He stepped in because, of course, Meghan didn't want her down market, her own family there, because she's a bit of a snob.
When all else fails, when everything is going disastrously wrong, there's always a stunt involving an airplane. But guess what? Today, I can reveal that Meghan Markle's fakery with British Airways has just been exposed. To that very shortly. But we also got, especially the fact that she claims She claims that the British Airways crew on her flight from Europe back to Los Angeles just happened to know that it was her 8th wedding anniversary and just happened to write her this card expressing what a delight she is on the flight.
Theo believed it was time to knock their heads together. That phrase instantly grabbed attention because many readers found it startling. After all, William is not a teenager involved in a schoolyard disagreement. He is the future monarch of the United Kingdom. Critics of the claim questioned whether anyone within palace operations would seriously approach such a complex family situation in such a simplistic way. Many people online reacted strongly. Some wondered why anyone would think William could simply be persuaded into a highly public reconciliation after years of tension and mistrust. Others argued that relationships damaged over a long period of time cannot be repaired through pressure, public expectations, or palace intervention alone. But then another twist emerged. According to reports from royal commentator Neil Sean, Theo Rycroft himself allegedly denied ever making those remarks. If that account is accurate, then the obvious question becomes, where did the story originate in the first place? If the palace was not actively promoting the narrative, many observers began asking who actually benefits from headlines, suggesting a reconciliation is just around the corner. Some analysts argue it helps create a sense of optimism and renewed possibility. Others believe it benefits individuals who want the public to think progress is being made behind closed doors. Whatever the truth may be, the story quickly became one of the most discussed royal topics of the week. Yet while debate continued over Theo and the alleged reconciliation efforts, Meghan made a move that generated an entirely new wave of attention. To celebrate their 8th wedding anniversary, Meghan shared a large collection of previously unseen photographs from the couple's 2018 wedding celebrations. The images included behind-the-scenes moments, reception scenes, personal snapshots, and intimate memories from one of the most watched royal events in modern history. At first glance, many supporters viewed the photo release as a heartfelt anniversary tribute, but others quickly began examining the images more closely and noticed something that fueled widespread discussion online. Several prominent members of the royal family appeared to be absent from the collection. Royal commentators immediately began asking questions. Where was William, who served as Harry's best man? Where was Catherine? Where were many of the senior royals who attended the historic occasion? Some online observers argued that the selection appeared carefully curated, while others insisted people were reading far too much into a simple anniversary post. One detail generated especially intense discussion. King Charles was reportedly included only briefly within the collection, appearing from behind as he escorted Meghan during a key moment of the wedding. For some observers, that image carried symbolic weight because Charles had stepped into an important role during the ceremony when Meghan's father was unable to attend. Meanwhile, another theory was already circulating among royal watchers. Weeks earlier, reports had suggested that King Charles had quietly removed a wedding photograph of Harry and Meghan from a table at Clarence House. Whether significant or completely routine, that small change became a major talking point online. As a result, some commentators began speculating that Meghan's anniversary photo release could have been interpreted by certain observers as a response to that earlier development. Then there were additional details that kept fueling discussion. One involved a penguin-themed gift reportedly given by Meghan to Harry. Another centered on the anniversary cake shown in related content. Online users quickly noticed that the cake appeared to display only 4 candles, despite the couple celebrating 8 years of marriage. The observations spread rapidly across social media, prompting countless theories, questions, and debates. Was it an innocent oversight? A reused clip? A creative choice? Nobody seemed to have a definitive answer, which only encouraged further speculation. For many critics, the anniversary content felt carefully staged. For supporters, it represented a personal celebration being unfairly scrutinized. Either way, it succeeded in keeping Meghan and Harry firmly in the headlines throughout the week. Yet astonishingly, the anniversary photos were not the only reason Meghan found herself at the center of public attention. Just days before the anniversary post, Meghan traveled to Geneva, Switzerland, where she was scheduled to deliver a major speech focused on online safety and the impact of social media on young people and families. The subject was serious, timely, and highly relevant in today's digital world. However, critics quickly pointed out an apparent contradiction. Shortly before departing for the event, Meghan had shared a social media image that included her young daughter, Lilibet, visible within the frame. The image immediately sparked a debate because of the timing. Critics questioned whether highlighting concerns about online exposure while simultaneously sharing family imagery created mixed messaging. Supporters countered that the photograph revealed very little and remained entirely appropriate. Then came another awkward moment that quickly attracted attention. As Meghan prepared to deliver what was intended to be an important and emotional speech about digital safety, photographs circulating online appeared to show large sections of seating that looked empty. Images of vacant chairs and sparsely occupied areas spread rapidly across social media platforms, prompting critics to seize upon the visuals and question audience turnout. Supporters, meanwhile, argued that photographs can be misleading and may not accurately represent attendance levels at an event. Regardless of which interpretation proves closest to reality, the images created yet another wave of discussion, criticism, and commentary. And as the debate intensified across media outlets, social platforms, and royal watching communities, attention remained fixed on the same question that has followed this story for years. What happens next in a family divide that continues generating headlines around the world, even as new developments keep adding fresh layers to an already complicated situation? A completely different angle of this story starts to unfold when you take a closer look at what people were actually seeing on the ground that same week. And it wasn't anywhere near as glamorous as some claims made it sound at first glance. Someone online even joked that there looked like a small crowd off to the side during one of the appearances, but when viewers zoomed in and slowed things down, the so-called crowd turned out to be nothing more than a group of people waiting at a nearby bus stop going about their normal day, completely disconnected from the event itself. At the exact same time, halfway across Europe, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was reportedly carrying out official appearances in Italy, where the atmosphere was described as completely different in tone and energy, and people watching from the sidelines said the reaction was on another level entirely. Reports and commentary from those visits claimed thousands gathered to see her, with cheering crowds lining the streets and a warm public response that followed her everywhere she went during that trip, creating scenes that instantly dominated headlines and royal coverage. Observers described a kind of effortless presence from Catherine, with many saying she appeared calm, composed, and naturally in control of the moment, projecting what they called a quiet but powerful star quality that doesn't need noise or staging to be noticed. Some royal commentators even contrasted that reception with Meghan's public visibility, suggesting Catherine seemed to be receiving the kind of effortless admiration that Meghan has long been accused of trying to build through media appearances and high-profile projects, yet never quite achieving in the same way. And while Catherine was being praised for that kind of international reception, Meghan's situation was painted very differently online, with critics joking that while one royal was met with admiration, the other was being followed by nothing more than pigeons and passing distractions, a comment that quickly spread across social media conversations. But the story didn't stop there, because Meghan also made a return journey back toward California, and during that trip, she reportedly made a stop at Heathrow Airport in London, which immediately sparked conversation given her past statements about feeling unsafe in the United Kingdom. That detail alone became a talking point because people online quickly pointed out the contradiction between public comments about security concerns and the decision to pass through the same country again during travel. And the question that kept getting repeated across discussions was simple but sharp. If nobody noticed or publicly acknowledged the stop, then what was the real purpose behind it being mentioned or speculated about in the first place at all? Now, this is where the tone of the entire narrative shifts again, because beyond the social media jokes and surface-level comparisons, a much deeper royal commentary began circulating that focused less on appearances and more on internal palace attitudes. According to royal commentator Neil Sean, who claims long-standing connections within palace circles, the king's personal view of Meghan has reportedly hardened significantly over time, reaching a point where his position is said to be very clear and very firm. A source reportedly close to the discussion suggested that King Charles would still like to maintain a relationship with his son and possibly remain connected to his grandson Archie, but when it comes to Meghan, the stance described is far more distant and emotionally closed off. Reports claim the idea is not about occasional meetings, public appearances, or carefully staged reconciliations, but instead a complete refusal to engage in any informal or personal setting that would reopen past tensions or bring previous conflicts back into the spotlight. The reasoning behind this, according to commentary circulating in royal circles, is tied to a long list of past events that the family has never fully moved past, including the public treatment of Meghan's own father, Thomas Markle, and how that situation unfolded in full view of the world. That family breakdown became a major point of reference for critics and observers who argue it marked a turning point in how certain members of the royal family began to view trust, loyalty, and long-term stability within the wider family structure. Then came the widely discussed Oprah interview, which aired during a deeply sensitive period for the royal family, including the final months of Prince Philip's life, and that timing has continued to be referenced repeatedly in commentary ever since. Add to that the Netflix documentary series, Harry's memoir, and ongoing media interviews, and critics argue that what emerged was a continuous cycle of public storytelling that kept reopening old wounds instead of allowing them to heal. Even Queen Elizabeth, according to multiple accounts, was said to have experienced disappointment over how events unfolded, while Prince Philip reportedly never fully warmed to Meghan after the early tensions became public knowledge. There are also claims that early attempts by Queen Camilla and others within the royal family to build a more comfortable relationship were not met with consistent cooperation, which some insiders say contributed to the eventual emotional distance that developed over time. From that perspective, critics argue that trust inside the family was slowly replaced with caution, and over time, caution turned into strict boundaries that became increasingly difficult to cross. Some reports even suggest that the royal family no longer believes Meghan can be placed in situations involving private family interaction without strict structure, and in some cases even believe Harry himself cannot engage without another person present in the room. That detail is not framed around safety concerns, but rather around trust, documentation, and the fear that private conversations could later be repeated or reinterpreted in public form through books, interviews, or media appearances. And this is where the story takes an even more sensitive turn, because some royal historians and biographers have added another layer of complexity involving Queen Elizabeth's later years. In Hugo Vickers's biography of Queen Elizabeth II, titled A Personal History, it is suggested that during her final years, the Queen may have preferred not to speak with Harry alone over the phone and would instead have wanted another person present during calls as a precautionary measure. That detail has been widely discussed because it highlights just how much communication dynamics inside the royal family had shifted over time, especially between senior royals and Harry following his move away from official duties. At the same time, Harry himself has been increasingly active in public commentary that extends beyond traditional royal boundaries, and this is where things begin to move into more controversial territory. He has published opinion pieces that touch on global political issues, including strong positions on conflicts such as Israel and broader international tensions, which many observers say places him in a very unusual position for a non-working royal. He has also spoken about Ukraine and made public comments that touched on world leaders, including Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, at times coinciding with sensitive diplomatic moments involving the United Kingdom. Critics argue that timing in politics matters deeply, and when statements from a high-profile royal figure align closely with diplomatic visits or government engagements, it can create unexpected pressure or complications for the monarchy. There have also been reports suggesting that Harry has had contact with individuals connected to political circles in the UK, including discussions linked to figures within the Labour government under Keir Starmer. This has raised questions among royal observers about why a Non-working royal living in California would maintain any kind of ongoing communication with active political structures inside the United Kingdom at all. Some analysts suggest it could be connected to ongoing discussions about security arrangements and public protection, while others argue it creates an unusual overlap between royal identity and political influence. Former government voices have even warned that the monarchy traditionally avoids political involvement for a reason, because the moment royals are seen as politically engaged, it can blur constitutional boundaries and expose the institution to criticism. And for William, who has spent years preparing for his future role as king while protecting the stability of the monarchy, this kind of situation is often described as one of the most sensitive concerns of all. At the same time, another major development has been raising concern around Harry's public work, particularly involving the Invictus Games and its long-term future. Reports surrounding the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham suggest that fundraising efforts have not reached expected levels, with estimates indicating only around £4 million raised so far from selected sponsors. There are claims that private funding targets meant to match government contributions have not been fully met, leading to growing concern among some organisers and supporters. In addition, reports have suggested changes within leadership structures, including a senior figure stepping down, while some long-time supporters have expressed uncertainty about the direction of the organisation. Veterans themselves have also been mentioned in commentary, with some reportedly questioning the shifting focus of events and whether media attention has at times overshadowed the original purpose of supporting wounded service members. One particular moment often referenced in discussions is a public appearance during the Australia Games, where Meghan was seen walking ahead during a parade, which some veterans felt shifted attention away from the participants themselves. Now, there are even quiet discussions within royal and charity circles about whether other public figures could eventually take on similar roles connected to veteran support and charity visibility. One name that often comes up is Mike Tindall, who is described as well-liked, grounded, and closely connected to both William and Catherine through family ties and public life involvement. Some observers believe he could naturally step into a more visible charitable role focused on sports, veterans, and community work, areas that align with his background and public reputation. And when you connect all of these threads together, the picture being painted by commentators becomes one of shifting roles, fading bridges, and increasingly separate paths within the royal family structure. From Meghan's anniversary photo release and public appearances, to Harry's political commentary, to ongoing questions about Invictus and trust within royal communication, critics argue that each development adds another layer to an already complicated situation that shows no sign of calming down. And that brings the entire discussion back to the central question that keeps resurfacing across commentary and public debate. After everything that has happened publicly and privately, what would any reconciliation even look like now in practical reality? Because even if appearances were arranged, even if cameras captured a moment of politeness or formality, many believe it would still carry the weight of everything that has already been said, published, recorded, and broadcast to the world over the past several years. And those moments don't simply disappear with time or intention, because once stories are told on a global stage, they tend to stay there permanently, shaping perception long after the moment has passed. That is why so many observers argue that what remains today is not just distance, but structure, history, and consequences that continue to define how each side moves forward separately. And as the public continues to debate every new development, the conversation keeps circling back to the same unresolved tension that refuses to fade away, no matter how many headlines come and go. If you want to see what really happened next in this unfolding situation, and how the latest claims connect back to earlier moments, check the next video on screen now. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates as this story continues to develop in real time.